Great. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the Sustainability Summit. We've had really thought provoking conversations all morning. So I don't know if you've just tuned in now. I'm wondering, where have you been? It's been insightful, it's been challenging, but you are lucky that you can get this on recording on YouTube and also on other platforms that Cape Media is streaming live at this present moment. So, welcome back again. We are still on the vision net zero waste in packaging, and we are still having critical discussions. This is our second panel under this particular topic, and we are now going to be talking about zero carbon growth, making sure that we have new technologies, incentives, and also circular economy modeling within an industrial framework. That's quite a jam packed term there. So I will be asking, or rather challenging, all our contributors and speakers to really delve deeper into the topic and simplify it, especially for viewers now at home. So with us this afternoon, we have Mr. Agrippa Munyai, who is the Sustainability Manager at Tetra Pak, Southern Africa. Later on, we also will be joined by Lindiwe Mudise, who's the Chief Environmentalist at Green Loop Environmental Consultants. We also have Chandru Wadhwani, who is a joint MD at Extrapet. And also we have Mr. Paul Curry, who's the manager of the Urban Systems Unit at ICLEI. So welcome to all of you. So I'm going to request that you all give us a brief introduction of who you are and of course your sentiments around the topic. So as mentioned, we're talking zero carbon growth. What are the new technologies, the incentives, and an industrial strategy that we can use towards ensuring that we come to a net zero carbon growth. So do introduce yourselves and just a brief intro around the topic, and we'll get into the discussion. Mr. Munyai, would you like to kickstart the session for us? And then we'll have Chandru, and then we can have Paul.
Yeah, sure. Thank you very much. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Agrippa Munyai, and I am responsible for sustainability at Tetra Pak, Southern Africa. I think the best place to start for us is that our ambition is to create a sustainable package. And that means that all the elements that are involved in the value chain should be zero carbon. And the main thing is 5 key elements that we will be, I'll dive deep into in the discussion here. It's starting from raw materials and sourcing, so advancing development around that and ensuring that we're relying more on renewable materials that are sourced responsibly and are also recyclable. Then the second part is around production and distribution, and that's all about carbon neutral production with minimal environmental impact. And as Tetra Pak, we've done quite a lot of extensive work around that space and have set ourselves some very high ambitions when it comes to net zero greenhouse gas emissions. And of course, it's important to talk about food protection and consumption, and this is where packaging and packaging technology specifically can play a role in reducing waste and ensuring that food is made safe and available everywhere. Then the fourth key element is an element of recycling, which is quite a key topic in driving the circular economy and the circularity. And our ambition there is around ensuring that all our packages are collected and recycled in some way. And then lastly, it's around circularity, and this is where we look at the material specifically and look at what can be done end of life to ensure that the raw materials are kept in use for longer. So those are sort of the key introductory elements.
Thank you.
Thank you
very much, Mr. Munyai. Thank you. Chandru?
Thank you, Tabang. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Chandru Wadhwani, Joint Managing Director at Extrapet. Our core function is recycling of PET and HDPE bottles, a big chunk of which now goes back to become a bottle. A big drive in terms of carbon neutrality, getting to carbon zero, is the drive on the circular economy. In many parts of the world, the ability to take a PET bottle and go back to a PET bottle actually saves carbon. I think we have to appreciate that while we're targeting net zero, it's going to be cumbersome on us to try and get those projects where we actually save carbon to help those that might struggle a little more. So hopefully we'll unwrap that a little more today during the discussion, and the role that recycling plays, given that plastics, and as Agrippa alluded to, packaging is a key component of a global population of 8 billion people. Thank you.
100%. Thank you very much, Chandru. Paul?
Hi, Tabang, and I'm very excited to be here and excited for the conversation. I think I come from a different perspective, and I'm very excited to learn from our colleagues on the panel. I am manager of the urban systems team at ICLEI Africa, and our role is to help our local government members to engage with the concepts of circular economy and to devise what types of policies and strategies they can use to creating enabling environments so that many of the strategies that have been alluded to can be effectively done. So, how do we ensure that people are participating in recycling programs that exist? How are we valuing the different services that are offered by different products and materials, and keeping them in circulation for as long as possible? And I think this point about recycling contributing to reducing carbon emissions is really vital to see those interconnections. So from our side, I think we're playing with a very large concept of circular economy, which is now starting to integrate a lot of different strategies. And what we've realized while trying to think about what this means for African cities is that the strategies themselves don't need as much interrogation. So in terms of reducing consumption, investing in keeping materials in system, and investing in safe disposal, but rather we've been looking at, well, what considerations can we apply for how we implement these in African contexts? And I think here in the conversations we've been having thus far, the ideas of social justice, about understanding what activities are already going on which are contributing to circularity, and needing to improve our governance and finance frameworks to support it are key outcomes that I look forward to exploring.
Thank you very much, Paul. Thank you. Ms. Modise, Lindiwe, welcome.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you, Lindiwe.
All right, hi guys. My name is Lindiwe Modise, and I'm from Gaborone, Botswana. I'm a microbiologist and environmentalist. I'm currently the chief environmentalist for a consultancy called Green Loop Environmental Consultants. So basically, our mission and aim is to introduce Botswana slowly to a circular economy, and creating awareness and just trying to educate the public about how waste is not just waste, but a resource. We're also trying to introduce financial institutions as much as mining sector to reduction of carbon emissions and how they can do that effectively, with advice from us as specialists. Yeah, so I'm so happy to be part of this panel, and I hope we can share a lot of knowledge.
100%. Thank you very much, Mamudis, and we are very glad that you are
Yeah,
able to then join us. Chandru, maybe let me start
Thank
with you. What kind of industrial strategy do we need for, low carbon transformation, just according to your perspective? Chandru?
Sorry, I lost you there for a second. Just repeat.
Oh, you lost it. Okay, sorry. I was just asking that, just according to you, what kind of industrial strategy do you think we need for low carbon transformation? Okay, I don't know if it's the network. Can you hear me, Chandru?
I don't know if it's my side or your side.
Yeah.
Maybe pass on. Okay, let's try again.
Okay. What kind of industrial
Yeah,
strategy
go ahead.
What kind of industrial strategy do we need for low carbon transformation? Okay, whilst we, I think, check connectivity with the Chandru, maybe Agrippa, do you want to come in there? Um, Agrippa, you still on mute?
There you go.
Yeah.
Sorry about that. Yeah. So I think what is important is always to look at to take the value chain approach when it comes to a low carbon industrial development.
Yes.
And I think for the most part there is an element of product design and development, which could be in many ways looked at and re-looked at, and new systems and new technologies and the use of raw materials, as I already alluded to in my introduction, and leaning more towards more renewable sources. And then coupled with that is obviously addressing the need around meeting the requirements from a consumer point of view, and the demand that doesn't necessarily impact the environment in a negative way. So ensuring that design talks to the food safety element, but also the end of life element, which is the recyclability and ensuring that materials are in use for longer. I think as an industrial strategy, obviously it requires taking on a full value chain look and ensuring that all these elements are addressed in a feasible and profitable way. And the fact that competitiveness and all these elements of food safety and protection cannot be compromised. But I think at the core of it, it's around looking at the materials we use and ensuring that we're introducing new sources there, mainly renewable sources. I think that as a strategy, it could move the industry forward. And there's been, I mean, from our side, we've got some examples of this kind of approach that works, and even though it takes time to get there, but there are some good examples of products that have been put into the market and have gained some traction, that are based on renewable materials, and their production and distribution can be traced back to the source. And so I think that as a strategy, it could be advanced and perhaps be introduced globally. But it's for us, it's really about looking at the materials and how we interact with that, and as a strategy, it could leap us forward towards a low carbon circular economy.
Thank you very much. Chandru, maybe you can welcome back, firstly.
Apologies.
No problem. So I'd asked what kind of industrial strategy do we need for low carbon transformation? So perhaps you can just add on what Agrippa has shared.
So the fundamental element front and center is design. If we don't design products up front to have a circular life, the reality is we will only continue to extract resources, whether they're renewable or not. We're a growing global population. It's becoming very clear how that's manifesting into climate change, which is the burning issue of the day. So I think any strategy for any brand owner starts with the design, tagged on with a life cycle analysis. It's wonderful to make products from renewable, but if it's ending up in waste and not being reused or recycled, or ideally being completely circular, then the carbon cost is actually positive, not zero, and definitely not neutral. So I can't stress enough the need on design for recycling and reuse.
100%. Thank you. Paul, maybe you can just come in there, since you do work with, you have certain initiatives that are in line with government, and local municipalities and local government as well. what actions do you think we can take at a domestic level to ensure zero carbon growth? And I mean, from a domestic level, we are talking about local government as well. You know, how can that then be inculcated in our, you know, rural development and township as well? So, what actions can we take at a domestic level to ensure zero carbon growth?
So, I mean, I want to jump on Chandru's last sort of
Yeah,
framing about growth.
please do.
You know, I think, you know, that the two routes. You know, one, we can question our economic growth trajectory, and I think there are people who are doing that. But in a way, we've locked ourselves in, and in South Africa and Africa and many developing countries around the world, we want our turn, so to speak, to develop, to grow our industries. But also, while we may look efficient, if you look at our consumption profiles at the moment, we know by living here that there are many people without access to resources. So, you know, if you're looking at a resource management approach at a citywide level, you have to invest in service delivery. And
Yeah.
this will mean that you have to use more resources. And so our role here is to help guide local governments to make the connection between service delivery mandates and sustainability. You're going to invest in public street lighting, use solar, so that you're not increasing a burden on a coal energy system. But then back to this, so that's one aspect of growth is basic service delivery. Then we've got a growing middle class who are expecting to consume. So what are we doing in terms of exciting citizens about the possibilities of affluence with sufficiency? And that doesn't really compute at the moment, because our billboards are advertising that success is a man with a beer and a car and a big house, and you know, that's not sustainable. So if you want to address sustainability as a broader frame, you know, climate is one very important aspect of that. You severely have to challenge in a generative way what people are aspiring for. And then back to this question of growth. If we've locked ourselves into growth, we have to regenerate. So it's all very well to have recycling processes, and I really love the point of life cycle analysis. Does what we're implementing actually make sense? But if you're growing and building new built environments and more people want to consume, you're not going to have enough waste materials or enough coming out of the system to input. And so regeneration has become the term that we're looking at, regenerating our environments and finding alternative materials. So I think that has been a personal journey, but also a journey of some of our thinking, is that it's come back to natural regeneration. So connecting the environmental protection and the urban resource management discourses.
100%. Thank you very much for that. That was an excellent extension to what Chandru had said. Mamudise, Lindiwe, maybe can you brief us on the industrial techniques that your organization has applied to enable zero carbon growth and waste management in Botswana?
So as Green Loop, as I've mentioned, we're environmental consultants. So we have tried to implement a department for retail biodegradable food packaging to try and contribute to the carbon emission situation, and to also try and help Botswana phase out the hazardous food packaging we currently have. Right now, we really do not have competitors when it comes to the biodegradable food packaging, because it's something that's still very new to our locals. And another problem for us to not have competitors is because we don't manufacture at all in the country. So basically, us as Green Loop, we import from South Africa and China. So we decided to try and bring in that kind of product and mechanism and technology to try and also, like I said, to lessen the carbon emissions. It's also nice to sell the product because we are scientists and we understand why we are selling the product. It's not only for retail, but it's also for giving back to the environment, environmental social governance, and investing. So within that, we also try and implement ESG and investing practices in the company, as we offer those services to banks and to financial institutions in the country. So we just try and guide them on a structure of an environmental social management system and how they need an environmentalist to sit on the board when they're doing investments, when they're trying to fund projects. I come in, like, for example, is Ingrid to say, you can't fund this coal project because it's got 1, 2, 3, 4 negative impacts on the environment, but here's an alternative rather to try and implement in your company or in your financial institution.
Thank you very much for that. Just to go back to Agrippa, how can technology assist with advancing this carbon growth that we're talking about, and waste management as well? What are, some of the technologies that Tetra Pak has used or applied in advancing this?
Yeah, I think for over a decade now, we've been focusing on developing technology that will help us in ensuring that the raw materials at end of life or products that we use can be reused again or recycled into some other product. So there's a lot of work that has been done in developing that recycling capacity and also advancing end use solutions. And I think that there's still a lot of room for new technology to be developed, not only for recycling purposes, but also for other reuse and there's closing the loop technology. I think where we still, for the most part, are working towards advancing the work on technology, and where I think it's an opportunity. It's around developing end uses for what are commonly not so easy to recycle material. We've come up with a technology for one of our components of the material of the products that we use, and it's all about combining the different materials and ensuring that we're finding end uses there. I mean, we've been able to break grounds around combining plastics with aluminium, for example, and we're making some advances on products that can go back, like pellets and rigid plastic products. And this is something that has never been done before, and it's really made possible through technology and through advancements that we're doing there. Then I think, of course, you can't leave out the digitization element around waste management, because I think where we still have some significant gaps is around data and digitization of the data platforms, because I think for the most part is still very much individual businesses working on their own specific call it waste streams or material, and for the most part there's very little central point, or there's no central point for digital data that we can all access. So I think that's where a lot of technology and software integration can really play a role, through this Internet of Things, where we can really almost get closer to real time when it comes to how packages are moving around in different setups and different contexts. So yeah, that's where I think we really can rely on technology, on capacity to develop new products, but also on developing platforms where we could have these central points for data.
Thank you very much. Chandra, I'm going to ask you this question and then I'll ask Paul just to extend on it. According to you, Chandra, how do you think we can, further industrialize waste? We've got your Department of Trade and Industry that is developing, industrial parks, development zones, special economic zones, and some of them are focused on waste. But how do you think we can further industrialize waste and make it even more popular, for mass employment and economic growth?
I'm nervous to go before Paul because I get to show my hand before him. At the risk of sounding like a broken record, it's again back to product design. If you embed value into a product, and let's be cognizant that it's not only packaging waste that challenges us. We have huge challenges with electrical and electronic goods, all sorts of other products as well. Ultimately, you industrialize it if there's value to pick it up and either repurpose it, reuse it, or recycle it. But for as much as we can be eloquent in talking about aspirations of what may or may not happen, the fundamental truth is that, especially in parts of the world like the African continent, where we need to create jobs and value, it all starts with what's the embedded value in the product for end of life. And I think another industry that's now in the spotlight is fast fashion, where traditionally garments were designed to work for years and now they sell it to change every day. What happens to it? And I think you're seeing a change then approach of what materials they're using, how they're designing, and what's the end of life use. So how you industrialize it and how you get it out is by embedding value. And how do you embed value is in the design phase.
Wow. Thank you.
Hopefully I've stolen Paul's thunder and he has nothing to add.
I love going after you because there's just so many things to add to. So I mean, I can add a different tack, which is some expertise from a colleague who runs industrial symbiosis programs, and that's where you have different industries who get into collaboration agreements to use outputs of one industry as an input. And I think the biggest challenge in doing that is building trust. And Agrippa has sort of mentioned before, sort of the question of data and understanding how much or what value these products have. And industries are necessarily very concerned about who they share these data with, because we're competitive industries. And so the key ingredients for these types of programs to work is immense trust, and you need a body who respects that. And so I think what we're seeing in a number of places is the value of an intermediary who's not government, who's not an industry actor, but who can hold that role and can be the bridge between government and private sector, and ideally with academia as well. And so we can benefit from some reflection and innovation. And then maybe just a clarification back to Agrippa, and Chandru sort of mentioned it. My assumption is often that what we want to do with materials is we want to kind of limit the number of types of materials we put together for ease of separation. So with the fashion, we want, let's say, go back to 100% cotton, because even though, yeah, well, I mean, I like cotton, but even though we've got these beautiful polyester cotton blends, which now feel great and look great, they're impossible to repurpose afterwards. So Agrippa, I mean, and Tabang, you can obviously allow as chair. I'd love to know, for that end of use life, putting together aluminum and plastic, you know, what happens thereafter and otherwise.
I'm not sure if that was a question that was addressed to Chandru, but or Agrippa.
It's for him.
Well, one
It's his question.
There we go. You've just been appointed to tackle Paul's question there.
I mean, it's from a place of ignorance, not from a place of knowing the answer. I'm just curious what happens.
Yeah.
Provide clarity.
Yeah, Paul. I mean, I think the ultimately the long-term goal, I mean, for us as well, that combine different kinds of materials for packaging is ultimately to go to get to a point where we can produce products made out of single waste stream material. So I mean, that's an ambition that we've already set up for ourselves for 2030. You know, but right now, between now and 2030, we still are producing products or packaging materials that are combined, and that's where now we need to find solutions between now and when we get to a point where we can launch single waste stream packages. And yeah, I mean, it is very clear to us. I mean, with all this technology and all the work we've done over the years, that we can't, to find a home for all this mixed material, call it mixed or combined material. It's very difficult further downstream, but it's not impossible. It's just it takes time to actually get there. And when it's a single stream, it's easier to just find a home for it. So the thinking is already going that way, and we're following that up with actions to actually make that happen. But between now and then, we need to ensure that we're diverting some of that from those combined material from going to landfill, and that means finding end uses. And I think that if I just take the opportunity to elaborate a bit further on the products that I'm talking about that are made out of this combination of aluminium and plastic, those too can be further recycled, not through the your common plastic waste stream, but it's through the manufacturers or the producers that are using this material, that they can actually put it back into the product again. And I know that the next question is, what if it lands into Chandru's waste stream? What happens then? And yeah, that I will let him answer. But but yeah, I mean, ideally, it'll be that it comes back through the same manufacturing process, and then it's just reproduced again. Then ultimately, it stays in use for longer. But yeah, I mean, that's my response, Paul.
Okay. Paul looks happy. Mama, before we bring you back, Chandru, do you have additions to that?
I think I'll always take it in cognizance of the technology of today. So it's not unique to Tetra Pak. There are a lot of multi-layer products. Alu foil is another one. The big push is redesign it, make it from monomaterials or monopolymers. But in 10 years' time, technology might have changed. So I think always be mindful of where we are today.
100%. Thank you. Lindiwe, what does the circular economy look like in Botswana? Just take us through at ground level. What is happening? Is there an industrial policy around waste management, and what does the circular economy in Botswana look like?
We do have policies in Botswana. Our legislation when it comes to waste and the environmental sector is not really enforced fully, but they do exist. So in a way, I could say our circular economy is kind of non-existent because of the lack of implementation from the public side, the government side. But we as the private side are trying to beat government to it, because I think they'll catch us on the way.
Yeah.
For now, we're just trying to, like I said, create awareness and trying to show, going back to the question you're asking, we're trying to show people that for them to get interested, you need to show them the value of waste. Everyone wants money at the end of the day. So if you actually do show people that waste is money, that's when people get interested in getting into that industry and trying to start up recycling plants. Right now in Botswana, we don't have any recycling plants. We bale segregated waste such as cans, aluminum cans, shredded paper, plastic, cardboard, and we send it off to neighboring SADC countries, most especially South Africa. So for right now, we're just trying to get there. I'm sure we'll get there. It'll give us about 10 years. But yeah, that's where we are right now.
100%. I think there's an interesting partnership there between Paul and Chandru around developing that part for that circular economy in Botswana. See, Paul and Chandru, I'm linking you.
And going back, I forgot to mention, when you were asking how we're trying to, what technology have we implemented? Green Loop has set up a recycling center for glass. So we once a month, we collect glass. So there's a center that we tell the public that you can go and drop off your recycling glass bottles there, then we're just piling it up enough for us to try and help the government sending off less litter to the landfill, because most of our landfills have already exceeded their lifespan. So in the next coming months, possibly we'll try and send some glasses of console to try and recycle, while we're trying to raise up capital to get to that stage of having our own recycling plants in the country.
Okay. Just before I hand it over, we had something to mention there. Do you guys incentivize the communities?
No, that's the problem. We incentivize for aluminium cans. We have a thing, an incentive called Collect a Can. So they have, that's why they incentivize. But for glasses, we're the only ones collecting glass right now.
Yes.
With so much passion. But we can't incentivize because we're still at a medium scale when it comes to the private entity.
Okay. All right.
So we need some support with the legislation for us, the triple P, for us to try and create an incentive.
100%.
For now, we're just using our own capital as a company to collect glass for free.
Yeah. Quite good.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, Paul, I see you raised your electronic hand there.
I just had a follow-up. I mean, I think this is really exciting to try and push forward a circular economy as an alternative. And I wonder if you have key recommendations that you think government should be doing to enable your work to either wider incentives or punitive measures. What would be most helpful, I think, from your perspective, Lindiwe?
I think the enforcement of the legislation that already exists. We need to review the legislation and enforce it. Because like I said, policies already exist, but no one is taking anything into consideration. Same as littering. We have a charge for people littering in the country, but no one charges anyone for littering. Like, I just don't understand. So I guess it's just a matter of the government looking at the Ministry of Environment as one of the ministries that can actually make money for the country. Because waste is money. Just that ministry yet alone, working along with the mining sector and the financial ministry, we can turn Botswana into a different economy overnight, because we have so much waste. Right now, we've got so much waste at the landfills, and it's already mixed up. So even if we try to do the technology of waste to energy, we're not going to produce enough watts from that waste because it's already wet and damp and mixed. So,
Paul, you're making my job very easier. Are there any other questions that you want to ask?
Well, I can add an anecdote from
Yes.
Moshi in Tanzania. Tanzania has a competition every year for the cleanest local government.
Wow.
And Moshi put in a bylaw that enables any citizen to fine any other citizen if they are caught littering. So, I mean, we wondered what this does for the social cohesion question. Do people get aggressive? But and apparently there are some transfers to go for it. But yeah, it won Moshi, I think, 3 years in a row, the cleanest municipality in Tanzania, which they were very proud of. It's like creating pride in your city, and it is beautiful. They lost it, I think, last year to Arusha. They were very upset. But then they scale it down through levels as well. So the ward level and then the level below that also have competitions within the city. So that was very cool.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing that, Paul. Chandru, just lastly, you speak very highly of value-added design. I just wanted to find out, how can we make that more fashionable to young people? Because we know that 50 to 60% of them, after they've graduated and so forth, are the most affected by unemployment and so forth. How can we make design or this particular industry more fashionable in inverted commas?
So the good news is we don't have to, because the science is showing us that the millennials, and more than them, the younger lot, the Generation Z, are exercising consumption patterns based around environmental issues. The problem is, by the time they become the global powerhouses and political powers, it's us, it's our generation, in the meantime, that's creating a hell of a mess for them to clean up. And as we're all hearing about, if we can't hit that 2% target on climate change by 2030, uh, we're leaving such a hard task for them that as much as they are already exercising good behavior in terms of sustainable consumption, whether it's consumption in itself. I think what's also showing, to Paul's point earlier, they're not as driven to material objects as they are to experiences, as well as when they do consume material objects, they're very mindful about the environmental damage it caused to make, the environmental damage it leaves behind after they've used it. So I'm actually happy to almost forget about them, because for me they've become the leaders. And like I said, it's us in the next 10 years not making such a mess of it that we've ruined it for everyone else.
Sure. Agrippa, any thoughts around that as extended? An extension of Chandru's sentiments there. Agrippa?
Yeah, absolutely. I completely agree with Chandru. We're seeing it as well from our side of the sector, that the millennials and younger generations are actually putting a lot of pressure on brands and brand owners to do the right thing. And this is trickling down to business practices and design, because they're voting with their wallets. You know, they basically are taking on systems and industries that have been going without accounting for what they do, which is great. And I think that it's been a movement that is steering things to the right direction. Yeah, I mean, we've got a long way ahead in terms of changing what we're doing and improving towards reducing our carbon footprint and minimize the risk of climate change. But yeah, I mean, at least we're starting, and we already are doing as much as possible to actually go that direction. But yeah, a lot of it is coming from the consumer, pushing for that change. And I mean, we from our side, I mean, we believe it's a journey. Creating a sustainable planet, creating a sustainable package and packaging solutions is an ongoing activity, and it will take this ongoing collaboration with the customers and the consumers to ensure that all the views are taken into consideration. But we must start, and we must start now, and we already are embarking on that journey.
Hey, Paul, just do one or two words you'd like to add there.
No, I think it's been stated. I would love to see the information on the cohort of millennials and Gen Z, as is it just that this group have shown leadership? Because my perception is that it's a small group of kind of environmentally framed and socially framed people who are nevertheless making a big move. So Chandru's shaking his head. So I maybe we should connect afterwards. I'd love to see that information. I'm also excited by this wave, and I think we've achieved success when our billboards have beer commercials that are talking about climate neutrality, and have pastors who are promoting climate and environmental messaging and things like that. Because I think, as Agrippa said, we're all entangled with each other. Our demand drives what the products are that are being made, but we're also really influenced by what we see and what others are using. So we've seen a lot of positive shifts in social messaging. I keep going back to beer, but in Uganda, beer ads that are now proclaiming no excuse for gender-based violence, I think is really positive. Under lockdown, some of the new releases said enjoy responsibly at home until you can go out again. So I think those are really interesting vehicles to me for aspiration.
Thank you very much there. Let's have our final sentiments, closing remarks. I think we'll start with Mamudise. Let's start with you and Lindiwe, and then we'll come to you, Chandru, and then we'll have Agrippa and Paul. You'll be the last.
what can I say? Yeah, but thanks guys for having me. And I just hope that we, besides the triple P partnerships I want locally, I'm extending the invite for anyone in the panel right now to try and reach out, to try and help us diversify and start the circular economy in Botswana. We're still far from getting there, but we will get there. We're very interested as well in biodegradable packaging. We've been struggling to find manufacturers in South Africa. So if anyone can assist with that to help us get to that stage in Botswana to try and phase out a percentage of the hazardous packaging. Yeah, I think, thank you for sharing the knowledge, and we'll try and implement whatever we've learned, you guys, today.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Um,
Thank you. Chandru?
Thank you. Equally, real pleasure to be here and engage. Wonderful panelists. I can't stress enough the urgency of time. There are many talks. I think everyone knows what we have to do.
Yeah.
We do spend a lot of time on what we might do, what we can do. But if we are not mindful of the urgency and the time frame in which we must enact these changes, then it'll be of no value to be technologically advanced and carbon neutral by 2050 because we'll all be gone. But I think take positives that there's a lot of great examples of wonderful work being done. And the fact now in South Africa, we can take a bottle back to a bottle for companies like Coca-Cola is a great achievement and a wonderful beacon of what else we can aspire to. And lastly, thank you again. Loved being here.
Thank you very much, Chandru. Thank you. Agrippa?
Yeah, likewise, thank you very much for the opportunity to share and be part of the panel. From our side, as already mentioned, we are on this journey towards creating a sustainable package, and that involves looking at what we do now and what we would like to do in the future, and then do everything in between to transform that process. And, I mean, we're prioritizing food safety and availability around. And that's the first priority. That's the first price of creating packages. But coupled with that is ensuring that we minimize the environmental impact of what we do. And this journey is long, and it's gonna, as I said, it's gonna take a lot of collaborative work with our customers, brand owners, and also involving the consumers. On the consumer specifically, I think we've got a lot of work to do as not only as Tetra Pak but as a packaging industry to educate, to be transparent about the materials we use, and to ensure that the consumer base is aware that there's value in these products post consuming the product, the contents of the product. So there's a lot of work we can do collectively there, and ensuring that at the end of the day, the materials we use are kept in use for longer, and we can all tell a good story of the amount of waste we're diverting from landfill, and ultimately reduce the need for raw materials long term. So yeah, happy to continue the conversation outside this platform. But from Tetra Pak's side, we are all about going back to nature. As we say, in our current campaign, it's about going back to nature. Go nature, go carton. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Agrippa. Thank you. Highly appreciated. Paul?
I mean, I think just from my side, a big set of thanks. I've got a few thoughts whirling in my mind, so I'm looking forward to chatting with everyone afterwards. As said, we're pursuing writing a discussion piece on how to implement the circular economy in African cities, very broad. So thanks, Lindiwe, for the invite, and we'll certainly take you up on that conversation and exploration. And if there's anyone who's watching who'd be interested in a conversation about circular economy and contributing in some way, then please do reach out. Thanks, everyone, and looking forward to the next steps.
Thank you very much to all of you for your time and indeed the sentiments as well. thought-provoking, and I believe that we've had fruitful discussions that could take us forward. So we appreciate your time and all the best in all your collaborative efforts in your distinct organizations. And I do hope that even as a panel and with other engaging forces, you'll be able to partner so that we do implement and be an action-oriented kind of people. Just like Chandru said, by 2050, we can't all be dead and gone. You know, we've got to leave something of value for our kids and for generations that are behind us. So thank you all for the work that you do. And indeed, we do believe that we'll see you soon. Let's hope that in the next Sustainability Summit, our discussions will be at a higher level, different, because we would have done some more work. Thank you very much for your time. Ladies and gentlemen, as you've heard, that was Mr. Agrippa Munyai, who's the Sustainability Manager at Tedra Park, Southern Africa. We also had Lindiwe Mudise, who's the Chief Environmentalist from Green Loop Environmental Consultants. And we had Chandru Mandwani, who is a joint MD at Extrapet, and also Paul Curry, manager of the Urban Systems Unit at ICLEI. So thank you so much to our panelists there. Hopefully you have been hashtagging and tweeting at SAS Summit 2020. Please do connect with our panelists if you want. You heard the companies that they are from, so feel free to connect with them. I'm sure they have social media handles. Thank you very much, guys.